All right, gonna talk about the Blair Witch trilogy. Yay. So excited about that. Okay, so my history with the series is when I eventually watched the first movie, I was aware of what the series was, or what Blair Witch Project was, and just never watched it yet. And yeah, people were saying like, "Oh, it's like revolutionary like film, like it used the internet, which was fairly new at the time, as a marketing tool to make it look like this movie was real." And yeah, they did a pretty decent job with that. Um, but yeah, I was aware of the first movie, just never saw it, and then didn't really realize that there was a second one until way later. And then I don't think it was until the third movie when I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, yeah, that's right. This is a thing. So like, okay, I'll sit down and check this out. So start with 1999's The Blair Witch Project.
I don't know why you have to have every conversation on video.
Because we're making a documentary.
Not about us getting lost. We're making a documentary about a witch.
I
We're
don't.
lost. Admit that first.
No, I know we're not lost.
Okay, The Blair Witch Project. So this movie is about a couple of they don't really establish relationships, but three people who go off to film in the woods to film a documentary about their home, about the town they live in, which is supposedly the woods is cursed by a witch that is named the Blair Witch because the town they live in, it's Burkittsville, which is Blair. So they're filming their stuff, and then they get lost, and then just tensions become high, and then supposedly the Blair Witch is haunting them for the movie. Okay, so as I touched on before, this movie used the internet as a viral marketing tool, and it worked. Like, they actually made people believe that they were real people, and it was smart the way they did it. Despite that, I don't like this movie. I do not like this movie. I think I understand that the acting was trying to be more realistic, but the problem was for me is that what I think was when they didn't have something to, like, when they weren't given like a subject to do, they would just do nothing but just swear up a storm, like they were in a Quentin Tarantino movie. And what I heard about was there wasn't a script. The actual filmmakers were, like, I think like 10 miles away from where they were, or like 5 or 10 miles away, so they were pretty secluded, and just gave him notes and just said, like, yeah, just talk about this, go. And that's kind of an issue, because then I understand they're trying to make it realistic, but if you're just going to do nothing but swear the whole time, it's just like, okay, not everybody is Quentin Tarantino, not everyone is Samuel Jackson, where with Samuel Jackson, every time that he swears, it's like, okay, we expect that, and plus he's just awesome in every way. Where with Quentin Tarantino, it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of things that he writes that's just like, yeah, I don't really think you should be saying that, especially when you get to Django Unchained, because oh boy, the swearing in that film. But anyway, if they don't have at least a script, whether it be like a spec script or like a first draft script, then it's going to be like just no, like a free for all. And that's kind of what happened. with this, where it's like they don't have anything to do, so they're just gonna swear. And it's like, I don't have a problem with swearing, but with this, it's just like, you don't need to say it for every sentence. It also doesn't help that I did not care for either one of them, either one of the three of them, because it's just like, I understand that they're trying to do this like documentary, but it's kind of like, okay, they established that it's Heather, Mike, and Josh. They established early on that Heather and Josh know each other, but Mike is a friend of Josh, and Heather has not met him. So at first you're just kind of like, okay, this is not going to go well. And there's a theory going around that there actually is no witch, and that it was actually a whole murder setup of Mike and Josh to kill Heather in the woods. And it's just like, honestly, I think that's more likely. And they're just using the supernatural as just, implanting that. Like, yeah, that's what's going on. And yeah. I don't particularly like this movie, but this is also one of those movies where it's kind of like a love it or hate it movie. And sorry, I'm in the camp of hating it. And I didn't like this movie. I didn't like it. So sorry, but I don't. And it's boring at times. The pacing is very slow. There's some elements where I'm just like, if you actually, I understand it was a low budget, but if you at least showed something, then I would have liked this a little bit more. That's what, like, I love the how it should have ended video for this, where they get to the end, and they drop the camera, and then you hear the filmmakers, you hear like the directors go like, oh my god, I cannot believe you just dropped the camera. Like, now we got no movie. Like, all you were supposed to do was just pan to the camera and just show this cardboard cutout of the witch, and because that's what everybody wanted to see. And they're just like, well, sorry, we're actors, not actual like crew members. And it's just like, that's just funnier because it's like, yep, that's kind of what I was expecting. But I'm all about like, like I do like movies where they don't give you too much information, or it's not spelled out completely like what is going on, and I respect that. But in this case, it's one of those movies where it's just like, give me at least something, and I won't be super thrilled, but it'll be like, what, at least you guys did that. They don't even do that, and so I don't like this movie. I understand that it's a revolutionary film where, yeah, it did use the internet as marketing, but also it introduced the masses found footage technique to filmmaking. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it hasn't worked. But it's just the way they just do some things. It's like, I don't like anybody. You're not showing me anything. I understand you're trying to use atmosphere, but honestly, that can only get you so far. And like some of the things that like pop up, it's just like, ooh, look at this. It's like, I won't be scared by that. I just go like, that's peculiar. Probably somebody came through here. Like, maybe somebody's here. Like, even if there are like a mass murderer, at least it's something. But yeah, in this case, it's like, oh, they find a rock pile. It's like, ooh, it's spooky. And it's just like, really? Like, you're gonna scare me with rocks, like a spooky rock pile? It's like, really? I'm supposed to be scared by that? It's like, no. And it's just, I don't like this movie. Like, I'm sorry, I don't like the movie, and I don't want to like dogpile on it too much. Because yeah, the atmosphere, the woods is always a creepy place to shoot a horror movie, because once you enter there, unless you like cover or like you like track your way, you're pretty isolated, and it is easy to get lost. Honestly, like a Walmart during Black Friday, there's so many people that you just get lost, or like a Comic-Con, it's easy to get lost there. But there's so much cool stuff around you that you're just like, you know what, I don't care that I'm lost. But with this case, it's like I'm lost, and everything looks the same. So the woods is always a creepy thing. So the atmosphere they have down, but that can only get you so far. And yeah, they sometimes they use it to their advantage, but it's just boring and not interesting. And personally, it's terrible. So I don't like the first movie. Then it wasn't until I think 2000, like a year later, that the studio said, you know what, we need a sequel. So we got one. Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows.
The truth, but one of them has a secret that will unlock the curse.
If you don't believe in the Blair Witch, then why the hell did you bother to come?
I thought the movie was cool.
This fall, just in time.
Okay, if you want to talk about a money grab, look no further than Blair Witch 2. Alright, so this movie, it establishes that the events of the first movie actually did happen. So they already lost me there. But it's about this group of pretty much, they're the strangers. They go into the woods to basically go and find out like what happened, and like, oh, like this part was filmed here, like this is where this was discovered, and kind of basically like crack the case of what happened. So basically like a stranger version of Scooby-Doo, and just whatever. So just talk about money grabs. This one, it was obvious that this was a cash grab, or this was a studio decision to make this. Like, they're just like, hey, we made so much money on that first movie, we gotta make another one. We don't care. But to be fair, to give the movie credit, they said, hey, let's not copy what the first movie did. Let's actually, make it, we have a script, we have actors, we have actual production. We're in, we have color at most of the time. Or like, yeah, we have color for the whole movie. Like, it's actually made like an actual movie. Great. And somehow it's worse. Like, wow. It's somehow worse than the first one. So, yeah, right off the bat, I think it was, five people. Hated each one of them. I just don't care. Even throughout the movie, they're trying to like give them like more depth to the character. And it's like, I don't care about any of them. Like, just stop, please. Like, I don't need to know about these people, because I don't care about these people, because you already introduced them to me. Like, I don't like them. But to be fair, there is one character in this movie that was my favorite, and that was the sheriff character, because he talks like he's like he's the live action counterpart to Yosemite Sam from Looney Tunes, because there's so many times where he's like, "Get out of these dang woods, you rotten kids," and talks like that. He talks pretty much like Yosemite Sam. And I was just laughing every time that he was on screen. And it was just so funny. Like, so, like there's a part of the movie where he calls up the people, and this is like exactly. He's like, "Yeah, what do you want? I'm right at your front doorstep, you little twerp." And I just kept laughing. like even there's a part in the movie where the people they're watching, they have their own like TV, and they're watching the news, and it's outside the outskirts of the woods, and the sheriff is calling them, and he's just like, yeah, like look, yeah, like look here, and they're like, look where, and then he's on the TV like waving to them, and I'm like, you had to interrupt a televised news broadcast just to mess with them, dude. I love this guy. And it's so ridiculous because they're like, oh, we need to set up like the horror and like the build up, but when they're throwing stuff like this at there, where it's like almost like slapstick comedy, it's just ridiculous, and they don't care. And yeah, the guy talks like almost like Yosemite Sam as well, and I love it. I love it so much. He was my favorite character in the entire movie. He was the only character that I actually liked, because every time when I went like, and he popped up on screen, I was just laughing because the dialogue he's been given, and it's so fun. But God, this movie's just a cash grab. They did not care. They're just like, oh, we had to show the gore, like the nudity, just to, you know, show like the horror. It's like, no, the studio kind of made you do that. And yeah. And I don't mind, if they're going to say like, yeah, the real one is like the first one is real. Okay. But the fact that I did not like the first movie at all, it's already kind of like has a bad taste in my mouth, because I'm just like, yeah, like, okay, like I'm not gonna follow with that, but all right. And there were so many elements of this movie that were just like, oh, we need to throw like this ghostly element in here, like we need to add this paranormal thing in here. Like I'm sure there's like multiple times where they ripped off like Twin Peaks, or sometimes like paranormal stuff going on with like X-Files, and it's so stupid, it's ridiculous, and I did not like it. Now this movie, the first time I saw it, it was like, I think like an hour and a half, an hour and 40. It took me like 2.5 hours to watch it, because I kept pausing it just to sit and reflect on like what just happened. And like I said, the only times when I was actually legitimately having a good time was every time the sheriff was on screen, and he's barely in the movie. Like probably a total of maybe 5 minutes. So 5 minutes out of that hour and 40, it's torture. I hated it. And yeah, it's just I didn't like I hated almost everybody. Everybody was annoying to me. Towards the end, I think like one of them was kind of like, all right, you're getting better, and like, okay, like you're fine, I guess. But it was just like, all right, whatever. It already hit the point where it's like, yeah, all right, like whatever. And yeah, just I did not like this movie at all, and I don't think it's a full on unwatchable, because of, like I said, the sheriff was my favorite character. He was the yeah, it's hard to explain. He was the one thing that wasn't like bad. He was actually enjoyable to watch, and every time when he popped up on screen, it was just like, this is just a comedy right now. And it's like they don't understand that this does not work here, and it's they're trying to jumble up these like comedic elements, and it's not working in a movie like this, but they don't care, because this was a money grab. And yeah, I think it's not an unwatchable, but it is terrible. And yeah, I mainly because of the sheriff, he saved bits for the movie for me. Then we get a long break in the movies. It wasn't until 2017, I believe, when we got the third film, Blair Witch.
I need to try.
Legend said there's been a curse on these woods.
Do you believe in the stories about the Blair Witch? Oh my god.
Now we have gotten the third in this trilogy, Blair Witch, and hopefully the last. Okay. So this one is about, it takes place years later, where they still establish that the first movie was real. And I'm going like, guys, we all know it's fake at this point. Don't try to convince me that's still real. But they're like, whatever, we don't care. But it's about this guy who finds a video that has footage of Heather, the one of the characters in the first movie, and he's like, "Oh, that's my sister. Like, I guess she's still alive. I need to go find her." I understand that, but honestly, I would have just called the police at that point. Just go like, "Hey, there's some footage with my missing sister in that, and it's not too long ago, and we know where it came from. Can you guys go search that? I know it's the woods, but have like a search party." But no, they're just like, "Nope, let's get a bunch of GoPros and a drone, and let's just go out and try to find it." And it falls in the same trap that the first movie did, and nope, still don't like it. And let's just say I don't think the Blair Witch series is good at all, and the fact that they're trying to reboot it is stupid to me. It's just like, guys, just leave this alone. It sucks anyway. But what really sucks about this is that this is done by Adam Wingard, who did like You're Next, did a segment in the first two VHS movies, and it just did Godzilla vs. Kong, and then is doing the second one. And it's like, what happened? Like, what were you thinking? And just it sucked. I did not like this movie. And oh god, yeah. So again, this is pretty much going to be a copy of the first movie, and instead they're just like, "Hey, we have better cameras. We have a drone now, and let's we'll see what happens." I will give the movie credit. They do kind of establish that there are points in the movie that the woods are kind of messing with their psyche and messing with their minds, because there's parts where they're just like, "Hey, I don't, this looks familiar, but yet it's like we're going in circles." I do like that, but the problem is that once they introduce it, they then jump right out of it. And it's like, okay, but what happened? Was it just like a one-time thing? Can everybody see this? Can just this one character see this? Like, what's going on? So they're like establishing new elements and some rules that they then either abandon completely or break like immediately within like the snap of fingers. And it's like, do you even know what you're doing? And yeah, it's just, again, all the characters just did not care for them. They're not as annoying, I would say, as the first two movies, but it's just like, you guys didn't really need to be in this situation. You guys could have just called the cops, or it had a search party, and it only do it during the day, because it seems to be at night is when everything happens. So like, you could have used like research, like, yeah, it was said that like all this crazy stuff happens during the night. So it's like, all right, have a search party during the day and just don't do it at night. And yeah, just go from there. But they don't, and it's just like, I just can't. Just stop, please. Just go away. Just please stop. This kind of is like on the vein of like something like The Ring, where it was like but the difference was, the first Ring was actually good. The first movie was actually good. But it was kind of like, you don't need to continue this to be a series. And, they did with 2, and then it just was not good. And then they continued with 3, and it was not good either. It was just like, these were money grabs. And this one, it was trying to almost like capture lightning in a bottle with what the first movie did. While, with the first one, yeah, they were able to, the lightning in a bottle was, believing that, like, oh, this movie was actually real. But nowadays, with the internet so much bigger and more powerful, and, people, now there's websites to, like, basically debunk stuff, trying to convince that it's still real. It's like, no. It's like, no, you're not fooling me. Like, sorry, you're not. Now, even if they were going like, oh, we know it's not real, but we're, for the sake of argument, we're just going to pretend that it's real. It's like, just don't do it at all. Just stop. Like, it's over. We're done. And, the third act, when they're just like, oh, we explain why this happened. At that point, I was just like, I've invested my time in all 3 of these movies, and now you're going to give me explanations for all this stuff. I don't care at this point. Like, either do that either in the second movie, or you hopefully do that in the first movie. But you didn't. You waited until like 18 years later to do it, and this is what you give me. It's like, okay, thanks. I don't care. So again, I don't like this one, and it gets a terrible. So sorry. I personally do not like the series. I think it's not a good series at all. And the fact that they're trying to reboot it is like, just leave it alone. Like, just stop. Do not make any more sequels to this, because for my money, they're not going to be good. Do not try to reboot this thing, because for my money, it's not going to be good. And just leave it alone. Let something die. You don't need to be like, beating a dead horse to try to get something out of it, which is exactly what the series was. Like with the first movie, it was just like, okay, here's what we got. Enjoy it if you want. And I didn't. And then when they did the second, it was just like, hey, let's milk this cow. And then when you get to the third one, it's just like, oh, okay, let's milk the cow, but the cow's milk is now like powder. It's like, guys, it's done. It's done. Like, stop. It's over. Go home. It's just, I don't like the series. I understand if people do, and I'm like, okay, like what you like, but me personally, I do not like the series. And if somebody paid me to watch it, then I'd be like, all right, show me the money up front, and we would have to negotiate how much money, because it would probably be a lot of money.
I don't know why you have to have every conversation on video.
Because we're making a documentary.
Not about us getting lost. We're making a documentary about a witch.
I don't.
Lost?
But one of them has a secret that will unlock the curse.
If you don't believe in the Blair...
Try.
Legend said there's been a curse on these woods.